Hey guys, it's Makeup Monday, and I have something a little bit different today. It's a combination of a glam tip, definitely something about makeup or about making yourself look better, a little bit of a confession, and a sort of a tip, a lesson that I learned that I want to pass on to everybody else. So let me begin with what I did. So this is sort of something a little different. I'm coming out of my comfort zone here, but I did this, to help all my clients that ask me about this all the time. So a few weeks ago, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago now, my husband went to Scotland. Hey, Mary Frances, we missed you this weekend to see the British Open. My son-in-law was playing in it. And so he was going to be gone for 8 days. He never goes anywhere. So I was so excited. I had a week to myself to do some things, and there's something I've always wanted to do that I've always been chicken to do. So a lot of my friends and my clients always ask me about lip fillers, and I've never had the guts to do that yet, and I wanted to do it. And he had always said, you can get a Botox shot, whatever, but you cannot put anything in your lips. So long story short, I did it. So I called, a friend of mine that does that, and had a bunch of girls over, and we all sort of had, our little girls' night out, and I did that. I went for it and had some lip filler. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is a couple of lessons I learned I want you guys to know about in advance. First of all, if you want to put filler in your lips, these things right here are called columns, and that's something I would start with. So about 10 years ago, I let someone put filler in my columns, and this stuff's only supposed to last like a year. I loved it. It pulled my lip up. It gave me a little bit of volume without looking like I had done anything whatsoever to my lips. So I was happy with that, loved it, and haven't done it since then. And I've wanted to do the lip filler. I've got a lot of friends that do it, and my husband and a lot of people seem to think that there's only your lips and crazy jacked up huge monster lips. He doesn't think there's any in between, and so I thought I could do this without him knowing. So first of all, I was going to just have the columns filled, which I really, really like doing that, and I did it about 10 years ago. So my first tip is, if any of you are thinking about doing lip filler, consider just having the columns. If you notice a really young person, they have these beautiful columns right here, and it's a sign of youth, and it really pulls the lip up. So start with that. Just go in, do that, and don't let them do anything else. And then if that's not enough for you, you go to the next step. So then when the night came and I went to do this, I only wanted to put a little bit in the top. I did not want to do the bottom. There's nothing wrong with my bottom lip. I only wanted to help with some of the fullness that I had lost with age. You can plump your lips temporarily with over-the-counter products, but it doesn't last. And the little lines and the wrinkles that we get and the bleeding and things like that. So I wanted to, add just a little on the top. Well, when I was doing it, they went on and on and on how you can't do one without the other. You've got to make them balance. You've got to do the top and the bottom. And I don't know really anything about it. So I said, okay, go ahead and do it. So we filled the top and the bottom. So I'm still really happy with the top. I love that I really don't have to worry about lip liner as much because it's a little fuller. But we did the bottom, and the next day my lip was so ginormous. And that was on a Thursday. And then that next Monday I did Makeup Monday, and several of you messaged me because you're so sharp and you've realized, you figured there's something a little bit different about my lips. And you noticed, maybe you weren't sure what you were noticing, but I got private messages from several of you. So I went in and told, I had some filler put in last week. My lips are still really swollen. It's supposed to take 2 or 3 days for the filler to go down. And so I did it on Thursday. My husband was coming back on a Tuesday, and I went on YouTube, done all my homework, so I knew my lips would be normal looking because he's not super observant, and he wouldn't have noticed when I came home. So I picked him up on Tuesday from the transportation we had arranged for him to get to the Atlanta airport, the shuttle, for him to get back. First thing he said is, "Oh my God, what have you done to your face?" He noticed it instantly. So my second tip is, don't try to hide that from your hubby, because he figured it out pretty quickly, pretty right away. So for a few days, he said, you put that Botox stuff in your lips, didn't you? And I said, no, I didn't put Botox in my lips, because I really didn't. He didn't really know what he was asking. So I wasn't technically lying or telling a story. I just didn't tell him exactly what I did. But the main reason I'm sharing this video with you guys is number one, to start small, start with just your columns. Number two, I asked for a half a vial, and there was a miscommunication along the way, and I ended up with a full vial, so my lips got a lot fuller than I wanted, and I'm not sure where the miscommunication was, but be crystal clear if you want. And I would recommend, if you have small lips, you've never done anything like that, starting with only half a syringe instead of putting a full syringe in all at one time. But the main reason I'm sharing this with you is if you have ever had a fever blister, ever in your life, one little fever blister, you've got to take Valtrex before you do this. A long time ago, I had fever blisters when I was like 16. I got really sunburned and had them really bad. I think I kissed a boy that had a fever blister. I don't remember, but I got fever blisters really bad, and then never had them again. And then about 20 years ago, I had my lips tattooed. My lips were as white as this piece of paper. They disappeared on my face. And so I had a friend that had her lips and her eyes tattooed. So I had my lips tattooed to match, you know, the inside of my lips. I loved it, but the lady had asked me, have you ever had a fever blister? I said, like, when I was 16 years old. And at that point, that was 10, 11, 12, 13 years before that. She says, well, you've got to take Valtrex before this procedure. I didn't believe her. I didn't take it, and within 3-4 days, my fever blisters had fever blisters. I was covered all up in here, all on my tongue, around my mouth. It was horrible. I had to go to the doctor. I had to have soup and Jello for weeks. And then I never got to have my lips evened up, touched up, or anything, because they were so tender for a year. They hurt so bad. And to this day, my lips are really sensitive. I can't get any sun on them. You know, all the long-wearing lipsticks, the lip sense type products, they just tear my lips up. And I know it's because my lips are super sensitive and irritated, you know, from that. Well, I've never had a fever blister since. Maybe 1 or 2 little spots that you kind of like, no, you're getting a fever blister. But I can usually zap it with the old zapper we have from our other company, put a little Abreva on it, some Visible Aid, and they don't come through. And I never get sun because I really protect my face and my lips and my chest and all that really well. And so I haven't had a fever blister since 20 years ago. So it never crossed my mind when I let them put the filler in my lips a few weeks ago that I might have that reaction. Never thought about it. So we put the filler in on a Thursday, and I expected 2 or 3 days my lips would go down and I would like them, and no one would really notice. And I always tell my clients, anyone who asks, just so I can share that information with them. But lo and behold, my bottom lip, I had 25 fever blisters. I was covered. Horrible, giant blisters. And on that Monday when I did the video, they were just starting to come out. By the time I picked my husband up on Tuesday, my lip was out to here with fever blisters. It was horrible. And I went to the pharmacy, and they're like, well, once they've erupted and you've got the ulcers and all of that, it's kind of too late to take the Valtrex, but you can use some Abreva to shorten it, you know, the Visible Aid and stuff like that. But they really want to be dry, and I was putting all kind of stuff to moisten them because they hurt. And what I really learned is you've really got to dry it out. So I was kind of doing the opposite of what you're supposed to do once they erupt like that. But it was so bad. I mean, my mouth, my bottom lip, I never get them on the top, just the bottom, covered in fever blisters. So if you ever want to do any kind of lip filler, if you have ever had one fever blister, get a prescription for Valtrex. I'm not sure what other scripts there are out there, and take it for 3 days, I think it is, before the procedure, and that would not have happened. And so I literally yesterday went on YouTube. I just got back from our conference last night, and my lips were still so tender and so swollen, and it's been, I think this past Thursday was 3 weeks, and I'm still taking Valtrex. I'm still using Abreva, because they are still a little blistered and just not right. And finally, they're to the point to where I went on YouTube, and you've really got to massage the product. As of yesterday, I was very lumpy and swollen and just I mean, it was so uneven. And so last night they're not so painful that I can't massage. So I was able to work some of the product around in my lip. I think I got it, and then it went into little lumps. And because of the fever blisters, it hurt so bad I couldn't massage like you're supposed to. So that's my story. I really wanted to just share with you guys to start small, to work with just the columns and leave it there. And if you want more, take a half a syringe and do just a little and top and the bottom if they make you do that. If it's not enough, you can always add more. But if I decide I don't like how full my bottom lip is, I love the top, completely happy with that. But if I decide after all the swelling and irritation from the fever blisters finally calms down, today's the first day, it really feels good. I can still feel a little of the lumps and you can, if you've ever had a fever blister, you can kind of taste it and you know what I'm talking about. So I can kind of tell that I'm on the last leg of it. I'm on the downward slope. It's all going to be better from here on out. So I know that in another week or two that I feel like the remnants of swelling that's more from the fever. I get one little tiny hint that there's a fever blister and my lip swells and explode. So I feel like the swelling I have is more from the fever blisters than from the product that was put in, and it was a Juvederm Ultra XL or XC, something like that. And so I feel like what's left will go down, and I'm going to love the results. So anyway, that's my Makeup Monday. Everybody's always asking. I get more questions about fillers than just about anything else. People are kind of very familiar with Botox and products that we can use, but lip filler and wrinkles around the lips and things like that are a huge concern for middle-aged women. And I've not, filled any of this or tried fillers yet. So I really couldn't explain that to people until now. And so I've done it. And I wanted to explain, I did have a dental block, so I didn't feel it whatsoever, didn't hurt at all. And there are fillers that are like the Belotero, that you can do around your eyes because they're so vascular in that area. But it's a very sheer, thin product, and it doesn't last very long. So if you want to try something temporary, a little more, I want to see if I like this, because this is a filler that's supposed to last a year. So start with the Belotero and try something a little less thick and long-lasting. But there is something hyaluronase, something like that they can inject. If I decide in a week or so that some of these places that are really tender and full, if I decide it's too full for me, I can have those injected, and it completely takes, basically it's hyaluronic acid. It's the same thing that's in our Ageless Science. It's the same thing that's in, any of your plumper upper products. Hyaluronic acid is what swells and plumps, and we put them in products to give us that superficial lifting and plumping and swelling of the skin. Well, if you ever want to get fillers in here, or around your eyes or places that you have scars or divots, they're going to use a hyaluronic acid, but they're going to inject it into the skin, and that's what you put in your lips. So I did that. If you've been thinking things looked a little bit different, you were right. And so I wanted to just share that with you guys. If you had any questions about that, or if it's something you've ever thought about doing, you have a little bit of information about it. So my takeaway from this is to start with your columns and to start with less. A whole syringe for me was too much, but I only asked for half a syringe, so that was kind of a miscommunication, and I had no idea until I went to pay that it was a full syringe. And at that point I couldn't take it out that night. So I said, it's all right, it'll be fine. But it was a little too much for me to start off with for my first time like that. Get on the Valtrex. If you've ever had one fever blister, you have to do that, or you are going to have an eruption. It is trauma. It is severe trauma, just like when I did the tattoo 20 years ago. And I still feel like I have hints of color from that. My lips have never went completely pale. Like I really don't have much of anything on now but a little bit of Rose Dust lip gloss. So I still have a lot of color left to my lips. But, start with less. Do your columns first. Get the Valtrex. And don't try to disguise it or hide it from your hubby, because I was telling little tall tales, big tall tales, and I finally had to come clean and tell him what I did. He was furious. He's still upset about it. He's mad that I tried to, hide the fact that I did it. So you shouldn't lie to your spouse, of course, ever. But I just didn't think he would ever have to know. And little did I know it would bite me in the butt, and it was super obvious because he knows I've only had fever blisters like that when I did the lip tattooing 20 years ago. So I just wanted to share that with you guys in case any of you are thinking about putting filler in your lips, so you'll have a little education, a little bit of information about it, because I had done my homework. I'd watched a zillion YouTube videos and talked to a lot of my friends that have done it and thought I had covered my bases and was doing everything. But the one thing no one ever says is, have you ever had a fever blister? You might want to consider being on medication before you do this. So I wanted to throw that out there. So if any of you are thinking about it, you keep that in the back of your mind. So you guys have a great week. We have a lot of fun stuff and a lot of great things coming throughout the week. But I wanted to hop in here real quickly and just share that with you guys before I lost my nerve. It's not something comfortable. It's not something you want to talk about. So anyway, have a great week, everybody. Bye.